I'm Jay Goldman, co-founder and CEO of Sensei Labs. Sensei Labs is a maker of enterprise B2B SaaS. We work with some of the world's largest companies to help orchestrate their most critical programs, typically things like transformation, post-merger integration, large M&A transactions, procurements, those sorts of big critical programs that have a very significant EBITDA impact on those businesses. And we partner with professional service providers like Kearney, the management consulting firm. We work with private equity funds like KKR, Bain Cap, Cinven, and Advent. And we work directly with large enterprises like T-Mobile and Lipton and others all over the world. We started inside of Click Health, which has been in Toronto since 1997 when it was founded, and we officially spun it out as its own business at the end of 2020. I think Toronto is an amazing place to start a company for a number of reasons. It is close to one of our biggest markets in the US, and we have direct flights from Pearson that get us there often faster than our American colleagues might get to the same cities. So just from a proximity perspective, that's been great. Eastern time zone is fantastic in terms of being in the right time zone for a lot of our customers who might be in New York, for example, but also just across the rest of the US and Canada, and then even coverage into Europe. We now have teams in other cities that are able to cover time zones more effectively. For example, we have a team based in Dubai, but Toronto was a great place for us to get that start. The density of talent in this city is amazing. We have some of the world's best engineers. We have people who have come up in large tech companies and have been trained on how to build software companies and grow and scale them. And so it's been really an amazing place for us to build what is really a global company. We have a lot of pros going for us, but we also have a lot of cons. There are some amazing government assistant programs like Shred, which enables you to offset a lot of the cost of building a technology team. And it is unparalleled in the way that it supports companies, especially when we talk to, for example, our American investors or American counterparts. The problem with Shred is it's after the fact. And so we're not really investing in innovation, and it's not really an innovation program. It's more of a job creation program in certain technical fields and scientific research fields. What we don't do a good job of is supporting early stage innovation. And so we found it, for example, very difficult to raise capital in this country. We found, on the whole, Canadian investors are very conservative and risk adverse, even in the technology sector. I would generalize our experience of raising our Series A here to lots of investors who wanted the safety and security of a Series B or Series C stage company, but wanted to pay the valuation of a seed round. And that's just a bad place to put startups into. It's not economically viable to raise capital in that form at that early stage as a company. And there aren't a lot of great programs that support that development. So although we would much prefer to have raised money in Canada if we could, we ended up raising from American investors who were much more open to the sort of risk that a Series A company has and could support us with the kind of experience that has been hugely helpful in building us past that point. We have a really weird attitude as Canadians because we are very patriotic and proud of our country, but we also think very lowly of ourselves. So, we'll talk about things like content on TV and we'll write off Canadian shows because they're not as good as the shows that come in from elsewhere. We tend to be quite dismissive of ourselves and write off the opportunities within our own country and think, well, it must be better if it's international or global or US or whatever. The current political environment is changing that. So we are seeing a wave of patriotism in this country that I don't know that I've seen in my own life. And I think it's amazing. And I think it's energizing people to ask questions about what can we do within our own borders that maybe we would never have asked previously. And that obviously includes things like trade. So I think it's fantastic that the government and the premiers at the federal government level and the premiers of all the provinces are working together to tear down trade barriers between the provinces, to take away regulatory hurdles that are preventing companies within Canada from selling to each other. I saw some great economic research that said that reduction of trade barriers between provinces could be a 4 to 6% lift in GDP. The impact of US tariffs might only be a 2 to 3% reduction in GDP. So really, we could all along have lifted our own GDP more than the tariffs might impact us. And I think that's amazing. It requires an attitude adjustment to say that the things that happen in this country are just as amazing as the things that happen outside. And so we don't have to go travel to other parts of the world to see beautiful things. They exist within our own borders. We can buy Canadian from Canadian companies, and we can get just as good products, if not better products, than we might have got from somewhere else. I think that's also true about partnership opportunities and business opportunities. So we as a company actually have very few Canadian customers. And it's a bit of a historical oddity for us. It really had to do with the fact that we charge in US dollars, and we could never quite figure out how to charge in Canadian dollars in the same way that we charge in US dollars without either having to absorb the FX rate as a margin hit or to have to raise our prices in Canada comparatively. And because there's so much opportunity for us outside of the country, we've never really focused on Canadian large enterprises as potential customers. But also, there was a sort of perception, and I think it's quite common, that there weren't that many large Canadian enterprises, so it wasn't that big a market to go after anyway. As the political environment has shifted and we've all started to look more inward and think about buy Canadian and elbows up and all of those things, we started to size that market properly. And we were sort of surprised, and we shouldn't have been surprised, but we were sort of surprised to discover that in our kind of target ICP of companies more than $1 billion in revenue, there are hundreds of companies in Canada that are at that scale. And so in our own backyard, we hadn't looked at the opportunity to find customers and partners that might have been really tremendous for our business, because we've been, as many Canadians are, so focused on an international scale. So I think it's a great time to start to build those pieces of tissue, those networks internally, to find those opportunities to build networks and to take advantage of this rise of patriotism and spirit of being proud Canadians and investing in our own country to really build networks of Canadian companies that are working together and that are expanding together. In the same way that you can't improve at chess or you can't improve at tennis if you just play with people who are at the same level as you, if you're not meeting people and talking about what other challenges they encounter, and especially the challenges at that next level up, then you end up in short-term thinking and short-term planning. So I love opportunities to get together, certainly with other founders, but also to get together with large enterprise, with mid-enterprise, with people who come from different backgrounds and who might have a perspective or insight that's different from the day-to-day experience that we have. So one of the things I'm really looking forward to is all these different levels coming together. I think it's great that we are leaning into this moment of being proud Canadians and gathering people together without looking for a lead keynote speaker from a big US company. This is the time for us to say that what happens inside our borders is more important than what happens outside. And so what I'm really excited about this event is that this is only Canadians that are participating and that we are proudly coming together to share our experiences and learn from each other. I think the format's great. It's going to be a casual event where people can form real connections with each other. It's not just sitting and listening to some speakers up on a stage and then hoping you might have a few minutes to ask them a question, but really an opportunity to learn from each other, share our experiences, and build from each other. And to me, all of those things coming together is super exciting.